Facepalm America, I'm Beowulf Rockland. FacepalmAmerica.com is where you can go for more information about the show. You can always do that. When you're not listening to me, if you want to peruse the internet, FacepalmAmerica.com, all sorts of interesting information about the show there. Feel free to go. Feel free to pass that along to your friends. We're going to continue now with part 3 in a multi-part but complete reading of the report White House for Sale: How Princes, Prime Ministers, and Premiers Paid Off President Trump. It's a 156-page report produced by the Democrats on the Committee on Oversight and Accountability. The ownership structure of Trump properties discussed in this report. This report focuses on foreign spending and related conflicts in connection with 3 Trump properties for which Mazars produced records to the committee: the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the Trump World Tower at 845 United Nations Plaza in New York, New York. In addition, the report discusses foreign spending at the Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in New York, New York, as reflected in publicly available information. As of 2020, Donald J. Trump Revocable Trust owned, either directly or indirectly, a sprawling web of 558 corporate entities, which together comprised the Trump Organization. Given the number of corporate entities, the 4 properties discussed in this report constituted less than 1% of the businesses Donald Trump owned while he was president. The company did not receive from Mazars any documents regarding at least 80% of Donald Trump's business entities. For many other entities, Mazars produced only a single document. Accordingly, the Mazars records and publicly available information shed light on only a small fraction of these companies, leaving unknown the purpose and financial activities of hundreds of opaque entities under Mr. Trump's control. Based on former President Trump's required disclosures with the Office of Government Ethics for the years 2017 through 2020, following the transfer of his assets to the trust, the 4 properties discussed in this report were owned either solely by the trust or co-owned by the trust with Mr. Trump's children or a Trump business associate through various entities wholly or partially owned by Mr. Trump. As the charts below demonstrate, Mr. Trump and his family members owned each of these properties through a complex web of limited liability corporations and other entities. And as detailed in this report, through these intricate and opaque ownership structures, former President Trump received millions of dollars from foreign governments, foreign government-owned or controlled entities, and individuals acting on behalf of them. And you can go to the link in the description of this podcast to see the actual charts that are referred to. The committee's investigation. Days after the 2016 presidential election, Representative Elijah E. Cummings, then ranking member on the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, subsequently renamed the Committee on Oversight and Reform, and then the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, expressed concerns that Mr. Trump's business entanglements could threaten the accountability and transparency of the executive branch and threaten U.S. national security. Ranking Member Cummings wrote to then-Chairman Jason Chaffetz to request that the Oversight Committee immediately begin conducting a review of President-elect Donald Trump's financial arrangements to ensure that he does not have any actual or perceived conflicts of interest and that he and his advisors comply with all legal and regulatory ethical requirements when he assumes the presidency. The Committee on Oversight and Accountability is charged by the House of Representatives with legislative and oversight jurisdiction over federal civil service, including the Office of Government Ethics, which oversees the compliance of officers and employees of the United States with federal ethics laws and rules. Further, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability may at any time conduct investigations of any matter. Pursuant to these authorities, the committee has examined the adequacy of extending ethics and financial disclosure laws and agency implementation to inform Congress's consideration of proposed ethics reforms, including reforms specifically applicable to the president. In April 2017, the Republican-led committee sent a bipartisan letter to the Trump Organization requesting documents and information about its processes for identifying payments from foreign governments and entities they control. The letter noted that a Trump Organization spokesperson on March 17th announced that the company has developed a policy to identify foreign government customers and donate profits, but expressed concerns that details of the plan to donate profits derived from foreign government payments, however, are still unclear. The letter requested documents and a meeting with Trump Organization officials to determine how the president intended to comply with the Constitution's prohibition on foreign emoluments. In response to its letter, the committee received the approximately 40-sentence pamphlet discussed above that detailed the Trump Organization's voluntary directive to donate all profits from foreign governments' patronage at our hotels and similar businesses during President Trump's presidential term to the U.S. Treasury. In its letter endorsing the pamphlet, the Trump Organization stated that for several of the committee's specific document requests, including, among others, the committee's requests for documents regarding public reporting on donations to the U.S. Treasury made by the Trump Organization, whether donations would be claimed by the Trump Organization or by President Trump as tax deductions, and the specific entities within the Trump Organization that would be donating profits. We believe it is premature to respond at this time insofar as final determinations regarding these matters are dependent on many factors that will not be known to the Trump Organization until after the close of this year. On May 24, 2017, observing the inadequacy of this response, Ranking Member Cummings sent a letter directly to George Sorial, Executive Vice President and Chief Compliance Counsel for the Trump Organization, renewing the committee's request for documents. He explained, "Complying with the United States Constitution is not an optional exercise, but a requirement for serving as our nation's president. If President Trump believes that identifying all of the prohibited foreign emoluments he is currently receiving would be too challenging or would harm his business ventures, his options are to divest his ownership or submit a proposal to Congress to ask for our consent." As the committee's investigations progressed and the Trump Organization failed to provide responsive documents, Mazars, the former president's accounting firm, was identified as a possible custodian of documents possessing information relevant to foreign government spending at Trump properties, as well as information concerning misleading disclosures by the president and information about various items of concern involving the lease and management of Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. On April 15, 2019, after a negotiation and consultation process, Chairman Cummings issued a subpoena to Mazars seeking several categories of documents, including all financial statements created by Mazars for President Trump and certain of his businesses for calendar years 2011 through 2018. President Trump objected to the production of these records by Mazars, and in April 2019, his personal attorneys sued the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to block Mazars from producing responsive documents. The Trump Organization argued that the committee's subpoena violated the separation of powers and lacked a valid legislative purpose. After the court declined to use an injunction invalidating the Mazars subpoena, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit affirmed, the Supreme Court agreed to review the Court of Appeals ruling and granted a petition for a writ of certiorari. In July 2020, after 15 months of litigation, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision upholding the committee's broad and indispensable power to conduct oversight of the executive branch and the president himself. The justices held that Congress's legislative authority includes the power to issue a subpoena directed at the president's personal information, and affirmed that when Congress seeks information needed for intelligent legislative action, it unquestionably remains the duty of all citizens to cooperate. The court held that courts must perform a careful analysis that takes account of the separation of powers among the branches of the federal government, including both the significant legislative interests of Congress and the unique position of the president. The court set forth 4 factors to guide the analysis for subpoenas issued to a sitting president, and remanded to the lower courts to apply these factors to the subpoena issued by the committee to Mazars. The matter returned to the district court, which again upheld the committee's reissued subpoena, but narrowed its reach to encompass only certain parties and certain years. The Court of Appeals, similarly, upheld the committee's subpoena under the newly minted Mazars standard, but slightly narrowed its reach. On August 29, 2022, after the committee's successive court victories, the Trump Organization, the committee, and Mazars reached a three-way agreement for Mazars to begin producing documents under the narrowed subpoena. The documents to be produced included accounting records, source documents, and engagement letters from 2014 to 2017 that reference, indicate, or discuss any undisclosed, false, or otherwise inaccurate information about President Trump's or a Trump entity's reported assets, liabilities, or income, associated communications from 2014 to 2018 related to potential concerns that information in President Trump's financial disclosures was incomplete, inaccurate, or otherwise unsatisfactory. All requested documents from November 2016 to 2018 belonging to the Trump Old Post Office, LLC, the business entity created to operate the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., all documents from November 2016 to 2018 referencing, indicating, discussing, or otherwise relating to the Old Post Office lease, and all documents from 2017 to 2018 related to financial relationships, transactions, or ties between President Trump or a Trump entity and any foreign state or foreign state agency, the United States, any federal agency, any state agency, or an individual government official. Pursuant to this agreement, Mazars began producing documents to the committee in September 2022, beginning with documents relating to the Old Post Office building in Washington, D.C., and the Trump Organization's lease of that property under which it operated the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C. We're going to take a quick break here. This is Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. Let's continue the reading of White House for Sale. Chairman Comer's termination of the committee's subpoena. As discussed above, in January 2023, almost immediately after Republicans took the majority in the House of Representatives, the committee, apparently acting through Donald Trump's personal attorneys, informed Mazars that it no longer needed to comply with its obligation to produce additional documents under the subpoena. On January 19, 2023, a lawyer for Donald Trump wrote to Mazars' counsel, "I do not know the status of Mazars' SIC production, but my understanding is that from the committee, the committee has no interest in forcing Mazars to complete it and is willing to release it from further obligations under the settlement agreement." In communications with Mazars' counsel, that attorney confirmed that the acting general counsel of the House of Representatives, in his capacity as counsel to the committee, had so informed him. Chairman Comer effectively curtailed the committee's investigation just 4 months after Mazars had begun producing documents to the committee. Although committee Democrats had been, for years, trying to obtain former President Trump's financial records from Mazars as part of one of the committee's most high-profile and heavily reported investigations, Chairman Comer claimed, "I honestly didn't even know who or what Mazars was." Notwithstanding his termination of the investigation shortly after the committee began to receive responsive documents from Mazars, Chairman Comer complained that Democrats have been investigating Trump for 6 years. Chairman Comer's decision to release Mazars from its obligation to produce records pursuant to the committee's subpoena, only weeks after committee Democrats began working with counsel for Mazars to identify documents showing payments